Hello everyone. So I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to show you how can you use refresh view with .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid. So we have a refresh view in .NET MAUI by which we can simply refresh the content of a view, reload the data for that particular view using that refresh view. And in this video I'm going to show you how can we do this using .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid. So I have simply created a new .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid app. I have not done anything. So it has whatever default it comes with. Oh my god, I opened Windows machine. So I'm going to show you it on Android, not Windows. So Android emulator, run. I have not made any change yet. So this is the default template which comes with .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid. We have this main view, we have these three pages. So on this fetch data, we have this data. So we are going to implement that refresh view, fetch to refresh for this page. Okay. So first thing, that refresh view, that is a control or component of .NET MAUI XAML. Okay, that does not have to do anything with Blazor. So for this, what we are going to do, first we'll move to main page.xaml page. Here is this Blazor web view, which is the main root for our Blazor application inside our .NET MAUI app. Okay. So on top of this Blazor web view, we are going to add a refresh view. So here we'll say refresh view, and then we will have this Blazor web view inside this refresh view. Okay. Now this refresh view, this is enabled for all the pages because our complete app is inside this Blazor web view. So now let's first see, we have this, and you see we have this refresh view, but right now this is not going to do anything, right? Because we have simply added this and we have not added any events or properties that when it should show, when it should not show, when it should try to refetch the data, and when it should fetch the data and then gets removed from the UI basically. So for this on this refresh view, we have couple of properties. First we have is refreshing property. So we need to use this thing, and this should be dynamic, right? Whenever we are actually refreshing, at that time this should be set true, else this should be set false. Okay. Now this property, how this is going to work in this refresh view, let me give a quick walkthrough how we are going to implement it. So when we uh, do this, when we pull from top, this refresh view is going to show this refreshing icon. So this is right now inside .NET MAUI, and when this thing happens, we somehow need to indicate our Blazor app that user is refreshing it. So you need to do something, and in this case maybe refresh the data on the screen or refresh the data or anything. And when the refreshing of the data or fetching of that data is done from Blazor side, it need to pass a message back that the refreshing is done. And then this request, this indication should come to MAUI app, and here whatever property we are using for this is refreshing flag. It should set this flag to false, and then this refresh view is going to hide this refresh indicator. So that is how this all these things are going to work. So now there should be a single piece of state which is going to be shared between MAUI and Blazor. So for that, let's do this. Let me stop it first. So I'm creating a new folder here, and let's call it states. And inside this, I'm going to create a new class file, and I'm going to call it global app state. Uh, it is for generic state, and if you want some specific state. So we could say refresh state or refresh view state. We could name it whatever we want. Now it could be a view model as well. Uh, for XAML side, for .NET MAUI side, it should be a view model. So for this, we'll do something. We could name it view model as well. First, let me make it public. Then in this, I'm going to have a property bool, and let's say is refreshing like this. Okay. Now it can be set from anywhere because we have public, but that is it is okay if we want, but I prefer this private set so that we can control, or it would be, you could say, we will have a predictable state update. We would know that okay, we are updating this field from here only. So we'll say set is refreshing, but you can use public get set and you can directly use this, but I usually follow this approach. Here I'm going to have a field, a flag is refreshing, and I'm going to set this is refreshing here only. Okay. Now this is fine for Blazor. Actually not. So whenever this property is being changed, initially it will be changed from the MAUI side, from refresh view. Then we should indicate Blazor that this property has been changed. So is refreshing is true. Now you need to refresh the data. And when data refreshing is done, then Blazor should indicate that is refreshing in false. Then it should this value should go back to the MAUI side, the XAML side, that this should be set to false. So for this, what we are going to do, we will have this refresh view state to be implemented by an interface which is I notify properties changed, this interface, which has this one event handler. Okay, so after setting its value, we will simply raise this event. So here we'll say property change dot invoke, sender is this only, and then property changed event args, we'll say new property changed event args, and the name of this property which is refreshing. Cool. Now this is done. Now we just need to use it. Now this is a simple class. We need to inject this for both XAML and Blazor. Okay, so both of these sections of our app should share the same state. That means these should share the same instance, and that means the type, or we could say lifetime of this service registration must be singleton, so that both of these are going to share the same state. Okay, now we have registered it at singleton. Now we can inject it first in our main page.xaml.cs. So let's inject this refresh view state like this. Refresh view state, and here we'll say binding context of this page, it should be this refresh view state only. Okay, now if we go to XAML, first thing, let's set the data type for this page, which should be this refresh view state. For this, first we need to add our namespace. So we'll say XMLNS, and states, we'll call it states, and this should be this MAUI Blazor refresh view dot states, and the data type is going to be refresh view state, this one. And now this is refreshing. Here we can use binding and is refreshing. Now this is refreshing thing is bind with this is refreshing. Cool. Now what we'll do, this is fine here, this is fine. Now we'll go to our Blazor pages, this fetch data dot razor page. We'll add this refresh functionality on this page only. So here we are going to inject refresh view state. Let's call it refresh view state only. Okay, so now what we'll do, inside this on initialized async, we will say refresh view state dot property changed. We'll add our event handler to this property changed event, which will be raised whenever we are modifying this is refreshing property. Okay, so here, where is it, fetch data. Okay, here we'll say, let's say on property changed, and let's define this method here. So here we'll say private void on property changed, and the type of this is should be this property changed event handler. So it should be this delegate which has object sender and property changed event args this fetch data, and we can add this here property change event args. It should come from system.component model, and we are good here. So here first thing we will check if e dot property name, if this is the refresh view state dot is refreshing. The reason behind this is this property changed. We are going to have other properties as well inside this. So this I notify property changed, we will trigger this, raise this event for other properties as well. But at this point, to refetch the data, we just need this property. So we will add our logic for this property only. So if e dot property name is refreshing, that means we are notifying this property change for is refreshing. And here we'll add one more thing, and the refresh view state dot is refreshing is true. That means we are actually refreshing. Here we need to refresh our data. That means maybe refetch from the server or whatever it is. On this page we are having this forecast, we are setting this forecast to forecast service dot get forecast async, right? So we can do this thing here again. Now we are copying this 2 times, so let's do this. Let's extract a method out. So here we'll say private async task, will say load data async, like this. Then we can simply cut this line and add this here, and we can remove this line from here, and here again we'll say await load data async, like this. And here also on property changed we'll say await load data async. Cool. Okay, now whenever we are loading the data, it should say this forecast. If forecast is null, then it is going to display this loading dot 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 indicator. So when we are refetching the data, so it makes sense that before doing this thing, let's make it null. Okay, now after this, let's show manual timeout, basically the delay. So here we'll say task dot delay, let's say delay of 1 second, so that we can see something is happening here. Okay, now here comes a point when this page is first getting rendered, this on initialized async is going to be executed. From here we will call this load data async, and it will set this to null. It will display this loading. After that we'll have 1 second delay, and then we'll get this all forecast data. Then it will simply re-render and it will display this data. Now when this thing is going to happen from this section, this is an event handler which is being invoked from somewhere else, that is not a part of this current Blazor page directly. So what I mean is, this piece of code, this is being executed from somewhere else on some other thread maybe. So when we call load data async from here, so we are modifying this forecast, we are modifying this here again, but these things are not going to trigger the re-render of this page, because when this re-render happens, if there is any property or state on this page, or there is any event triggered from this page, this component only. At that time, component re-renders automatically. In this case, this is getting triggered outside of this component scope basically. So in that case, we need to manually tell Blazor that you should re-render this page. So for this, what we'll do, first thing here, forecast equals null, we'll say state has changed so that it shows this. After this, there is 1 second delay, then we are getting this data, and after this again we'll say state has changed, that is forecast, this has changed, so you should re-render the page to get this latest data. Now we have, I guess, joined all the pieces. Cool. Now after setting this, after loading the data, we have this is refreshing true and we have this load data async. So we have patched the data successfully here. After this, we should notify refresh view state that now no need to refresh. Refreshing is done. So here we'll say set is refreshing to false. We've got the data, then we set is refreshing to false. Now this will go back to here. We will set it, we will set new value false, then we'll going to trigger this is refreshing. Now this trigger is going to at two places. First it will come here fetch data because we have it here. Now this first condition will be true and second condition it will be false because now we are not refreshing, so it is simply going to skip this case. And the second page where this change is going to be flow, that will be our main page.xaml, which .NET MAUI is going to do this for us. Here it will check this is refreshing value is changed, now it is false, so this refresh view is simply going to remove or hide that refreshing indicator. Cool. So false is done. Now we should set it to true, and that is we have a refreshing command here. From here we can say refresh view dot refreshing. But do we need this? Oh, I don't think so. Maybe okay, let's try. Maybe this refresh view is going to set this is refreshing to true automatically. Okay, here's the issue. Cool. So one thing what we can change here, instead of doing this thing, this property change from here, we can do this for this is refreshing, and we have this private set, so it is not going to set us. Okay, let's do the long way. So here we have this refresh view dot refreshing. From here what we'll do, we'll use this refresh view state. So here we'll say refresh view state dot set is refreshing to true. So when it is true, it will go to this fetch data dot razor. This condition is going to be true and it is going to reload the data. So now all the pieces are joined. Cool. Now one thing, we have injected this on this main page.xaml main page, but this main page is initialized from this app.xaml.cs. So here we need to pass that. So what we'll do, we'll inject that to app, which is the entry point of our .NET MAUI app, and here we'll pass this refresh view state. Now we are good. Let's try to run it and let's see if the outcome is as we expected. Okay, app is here. Let's go to patch data, loading first section. Now we can do this and we see loading, and after that that is gone. That means this functionality is working. It is reloading the data. Cool. So this is what we wanted to implement. Now we will fine tune this. Now there is one issue, and the issue is if you go to home page, and now if you do this, here also we have this pull to refresh, and it is actually refreshing the data for that fetch page, but that should not happen, right? So we should handle this refreshing that it should only get enabled on the page where we need this functionality. Okay, let me show you one more thing. If I rerun the app, and this time this is coming. Now if we do this, okay, my bad. That will be later. Okay, so we need to hide this thing. It should not be enabled on this page. So we need to have one more state using which we can enable or disable this refresh view. So for this, we'll go to a refresh view state, and here we are going to add one more piece of state, and that is going to be, let's say, is enabled. Okay, and we'll do the same thing. You're free to use view model if you want. Maybe you can use that community toolkit MVVM, and you can use these two directly from there. Okay, here I'll say set is enabled, and it is going to be is enabled, is enabled, is enabled, and this is going to be is enabled like this. Now we'll use this property on our main page.xaml. Here on this refresh view, we can have is enabled. This will be binding is enabled. So the default value for boolean is false. So by default, this is going to be false. And we will go to fetch data.razor, and on this page, on this onInitialized async method, we'll say refresh view state dot set is enabled to true. We need to enable this functionality on this page. So we are doing this. Okay, now let's try it. I'm running it. And now we'll see if we can see this on the home page. This pull to refresh functionality. Okay, app is here. Let's try. We cannot see this. Now if we go to the counter page as well, I'm not going to see that. Now if we go to fetch data, on this page I can see this, right? So this is working here. Now there is one problem. If I go to home page, now if you see, I again can see this. The reason is from this fetch data in onInitialized async, we set it to true and we did not set it back to false, right? So if you want to enable this for entire app, then it is fine. You don't need to do this like this, or maybe you don't need to set this is enabled. That will be by default enabled if you do not set it. Okay. Now what we'll do, whenever we are going away from this page, at that time it should be false. So how would we know that we moved away from this page? So for that, we can use disposable pattern. So on this page, we are going to implement one interface, that is iDisposable. This, it gives us one method, which is public void dispose. Okay. So whenever we come to this dispose method, at that time, what we should do? We should set it back to false. False. Okay. And with this, we should remove this event handler as well. So for this, we'll say refresh view state property changed minus equals. That means we are removing this property, this event handler from here. Cool. Now I just saw there is one more issue. This refresh view state dot set is refreshing to false. This does not make sense when we are coming for the first time from this onInitialized async. So for this, what we can do on this load data async, we can have a flag. So we'll say bool is initial load, something like this, and let's have a value of false, default value as false, And here we'll say we can do this for this as well. So we can say if is initial load is true, then only we are going to say state has sorry, if is initial load is not true, then we'll say stage has changed. And after getting this forecast, we'll again check if is initial load is not true. Then we will raise this event refresh view state dot set is refreshing to false, and then state has changed. So doing this, we will simply going to skip an additional re-render, because for the first time it is going to re-render in any way. So there is no point of calling the state has changed again on that. Okay, so initial load default value is false. So when coming from on initialized async, we'll say this true. So load data async, initial load true. So it will simply set it to null and do this, or maybe we can do this thing inside this only, because default value was already null. Cool, now we are good. Okay, looks like everything is fine. Cool, let me save everything and let's try to run it. So here, app is here. Now on this page, there is no pull to refresh. We'll go to counter page, there is no pull to refresh. Counter is working. Now if we go to fetch data, loading, we have load this data, and on this we have this pull to refresh. Okay, and it is actually refreshing, so we are good. Now we go to home page. Now again we cannot see that pull to refresh, right, because that is not enabled on this page. So cool. So that's how we can implement .NET MAUI's this pull to refresh functionality using refresh view for our .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid app. Okay, so that's all for this video. Please like this video, share this video, subscribe my channel. I'll be back soon with some other cool video. Till then, bye bye. Happy coding.